This happened when I was studying nursing in college. It was my third year on the course, and this was when I was staying in the Philippines. This story happened when we were having our psychiatric affiliation with Vicente Sotto Memorial Hospital in Cebu City. For those who may have been familiar with the place, I asked that if you can tell me more about the dormitory that we stayed there. It's a dormitory located near the hospital and psychiatric wards. I'm not from Cebu, so I have no idea of the history of the place. So, knowing if it's really haunted would really give me peace of mind, as I've witnessed some weird and scary stuff happening during our stay there. We arrived at that said dormitory. As I recall, it's almost dusk, and evening was fast approaching. The first impression when we entered the place was the darkness all over the place. Even with the lights on, it felt a little bit darker for me at that time, be it physically or metaphorically. That was how I remember it initially upon stepping foot on the place. Next thing I noticed was how the dormitory was shaped. It was circular, and there are stairs that lead to the second floor where the rooms are. There were columns supporting the circular dormitory, which to me, if I imagine drawing lines, I can probably imagine making a pentagram from the circular formations of the columns. My memory might be mixed with imagination that time, but that is how it felt like and how I perceived it to be. That being said, you can only imagine the weird vibes the dormitory is putting off. Boys and girls are separated by their own rooms. One room can occupy almost 10 people. It has double decks arranged as if like a military barracks. That's the best I can describe it with. We arrived at our boys' room, and the first thing I noticed was we have a balcony at the very back of the room where we can do laundry and stuff. How cool was that? Was what I originally thought. But that changed immediately when I stepped out to the balcony alone. Right outside of the balcony has this huge acacia tree, and right that instant, I felt like I was being watched, and I had these goosebumps all over my skin. I shrugged it off and went inside the boys' room, bearing in mind not to go out there if alone. We stayed there for 2 weeks, so on our first few days of our stay, some weird things have been already happening. I already knew that there was something off with the place, but I didn't tell anyone as it was unnecessary to make my classmates get scared, just because I felt like the place is off and weird. That didn't last long though, as they experienced hauntings all on their own. I have this girl classmate that lost her phone. She swore she just placed it on her bed, and she couldn't find it anywhere. We originally thought someone must have took it, logically thinking that was possible. We tried to call her phone, and someone answered it after a few rings. All I know was that it was an old lady voice at the other end of the line, per my classmate's description of the voice, as we were waiting for their conversations to start. My classmate kept on saying hello and if the lady took her phone, but we can see that she was getting confused and stressed talking to the stranger. She abruptly hung up the phone, and we were baffled as to why, so we asked her what happened and where's her phone. She was shaking and scared. I can tell something spooked her out from that phone call. She said the old lady was talking in Bisaya, a dialect from Cebu, something about how pretty she was and she likes her hair. I can't speak Bisaya, but that was roughly what my classmate said. What made her creeped out about the whole thing was that it was as if the old lady knew her or had been watching her to say that she likes her hair. It was just unnerving. We shrugged it off as probably a prank caller. We were all at the hallway at this time, since boys are not allowed on the girls' room. That same moment when my classmate decided to go back to the girls' room, she freaked out, and guess where was her phone? It was on her bed. Same place where she said she placed it in the first place. At that time, we have a vacant room where there are double decks same as our rooms, but no one occupies that room. My classmates and I decided to stay there and hang out, rather than staying in the hallway all the time. The girls decided to talk about stuff, probably their crushes, I don't know. I was minding my own business, laying on one of the empty beds. I was using my phone to pass the time, since we're not doing anything yet, when I heard a commotion on the other side of the room. The girls were yelling and running towards the door and out of the room. Of course, I went after them along with some of the boys that were also hanging out in there to see what was going on. My girl classmates were so freaked out. Some of them were crying as they relay what happened. Of course, they were just doing girl stuff and gossiping at the far end of the room when one of them decided to record their convos with their cell phone, just for fun. They said, nothing out of the ordinary happened while they were talking, but when they played the conversations on the phone, we all can hear it. There was no mistake, there was another voice in the background, and at first it was so faint in sound, but as it progresses we can hear it. It was a girl, not an old lady, but a young girl's voice singing. I can't understand what she was singing, but I can tell it was a Bisaya song, almost like an old tune song. We were all freaked out. The girl even managed to throw the phone away as if it was haunted or something. This is by far the scariest I have experienced while staying there. This happened when we were all sleeping during the night and a few days after all the creepy stuff's going on that time. I remember I was on the top bed. Lights were dimmed already, and all of my classmates were asleep. I felt this hair-raising sensation as if someone is staring at you from the darkness. I was facing the back side of the room, where the balcony door was leading to the huge acacia tree outside. A few moments later, my sensation of dread just intensified, and I noticed a shadowy figure forming at the very end of the room by the balcony door. I was petrified, unable to move at what I was witnessing. I'm fully awake as I watched this entity in a shape of a female with ragged hair, and though not much features of the face, the eyes were red and almost malevolent. I can tell it was looking at my classmates as if searching for something, but at that instant I felt like it knew I was awake and watching it. At just that instant, when I blinked my eye, she was right in front of my bed and staring malevolently at me. Scared and horrified was an understatement as far as I can say. I can feel my heart pounding and all my hairs at the back of my neck and arms are standing up. Although I was scared, I held my cross necklace that I was wearing that time and spoke to it. In of Jesus Christ, leave us be. We are not doing anything to you. At that instant, it vanished just like that. The next day, a classmate of mine asked me, why was I talking alone last night? I just didn't tell him about what I saw, so no one will freak out more as they already were. Suffice to say, that was one of the most memorable moments while staying on that dorm.